In this video, we'll be taking a look at 6 NBA matchups, and I'll break them all down with free winning picks so you can bet smarter and win bigger. But first, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell so you get our picks the second they drop, because when the lines move, the early birds cash in. And if you want the full winning sport picks experience, head over to wspicks.com and check out our VIP packages, or grab a free consultation with one of our professional sports consultants for the sharpest edge you'll find anywhere. That's where the real plays live. We are your bookmaker's worst nightmare. These are the games we're hammering, the ones the books can't afford you to bet. This is Winning Sport Picks. The free picks are about to drop, and they're coming in hot. Cleveland versus Washington opens the slate with Cleveland laying 14 and Washington catching 15, and a spread this large usually reflects trust in Cleveland's ability to dictate half-court pace while limiting opponent runs. Washington tends to rely on rhythm. They struggle to generate against disciplined defensive teams, and the total around 238 suggests steady scoring without explosive pace shifts. I like Cleveland to cover the 14, and I like the game to stay under the 239. Atlanta versus Detroit gives us Detroit laying 6 and Atlanta catching 6. And in matchups like this, the edge often goes to the team with steadier possession structure. Detroit typically plays better when they slow the tempo and force opponents into tougher shots, while Atlanta depends more on timing-based spurts. With the total around 232.5, scoring should remain controlled rather than chaotic. I like Detroit to cover the 6, and I like the game to stay under the 233. Chicago versus Charlotte presents a tight line with Chicago laying 1 and Charlotte catching 1, and these near pick'em numbers tend to favor the side that executes more consistently late. Charlotte often benefits from pace control at home, turning games into grindouts rather than shootouts, and the total in the mid-230s signals moderate scoring without guaranteed fireworks. I like Charlotte to cover the 1, and I like the game to stay under the 237. Indiana versus Philadelphia has Philadelphia laying 6 and Indiana catching 7 depending on the book, and this one comes down to whether Indiana can keep the pace elevated long enough to offset Philadelphia's defensive structure. Philly usually shapes games into slower, more physical possessions that favor the favorite when the number sits around 2 possessions. With the total near 228, scoring should be steady but not overly inflated. I like Philadelphia to cover the 6, and I like the game to stay under the 229. Utah versus Memphis sets up with Memphis laying 7 and Utah catching 7, and this matchup leans heavily on Memphis's ability to limit opponent rhythm at home. Utah can hang when they generate clean looks early in possessions, but Memphis often forces games into slower sequences that disrupt that flow. With a total near 236, offense should show up, but not to extremes. I like Memphis to cover the 7, and I like the game to stay under the 236. Brooklyn versus Dallas shows Dallas laying 7 and Brooklyn catching 7, and this line reflects confidence in Dallas's ability to control tempo while limiting their own mistakes. Brooklyn tends to rely on streaks that don't always travel well, especially against structured defensive fronts. With the total around 223, scoring should be balanced without runaway pace. I like Dallas to cover the 7, and I like the game to stay under the 224. Minnesota versus Golden State rounds out the slate with Golden State laying 1 and Minnesota catching 1, and this kind of tight number often comes down to which team handles late-game possessions more cleanly. Golden State typically benefits from home court tempo control, while Minnesota tends to lean on defensive pressure that can waver in road environments. With the total around 225, scoring should remain steady but not explosive. I like Golden State to cover the 1, and I like the game to stay under the 226. Now listen to me, those are the free picks, but the one game I am unloading on tonight, the game that's going to crush your bookie's soul, that's the VIP play of the day at wspicks.com. This is the nuke, the hammer, the max bet, the one play I've circled, the game that will bury your bookmaker 6 feet under. When it hits, and it will, your bookie is going to need a doctor, a lawyer, and maybe even a priest. If you want to ride with me on the biggest bet of the day, get to wspicks.com right now. For the recap, I'm rolling with Cleveland minus 14 and the under, Detroit minus 6 and the under, Charlotte plus 1 and the under, Philadelphia minus 6 and the under, Memphis minus 7 and the under, Dallas minus 7 and the under, and Golden State minus 1 with the under. A slate built on pace control, defensive structure, and late game execution edges. This is Winning Sport Picks, where we don't just bet, We bury bookmakers. Smash that subscribe button, drop your favorite plays in the comments, and hammer that like button like you're hammering your bookie into the dirt. We're cashing, we're dominating, and tonight we're dancing on the grave of your bookmaker. Let's go!